The corridor outside the briefing room was buzzing with voices until she stepped inside, limping, pale, one hand pressed against her ribs like she was holding herself together. Conversations died instantly. Officers who were arguing seconds ago stared at her as if she carried the kind of truth the Navy never wanted spoken out loud. She didn't say a word. She just stood there, breathing sharp, eyes steady until the Admiral finally asked, "Lieutenant, what happened out there?" She didn't answer. She just lifted the edge of her shirt and the room froze. Even the Admiral's voice collapsed when he saw the jagged scars carved across her ribs, scars that belonged to a fight no one had been briefed on, scars that explained everything she had been too silent to say. For years she had been the quiet one, the officer who worked in the background, never asking for attention. But now, every eye in the room locked onto her, realizing this wasn't about medals or protocol. This was the truth behind a mission the Navy buried, a failure no one wanted to claim, and a wound that refused to be forgotten. The Admiral's jaw tightened as she finally placed her palms on the table and whispered, "The extraction wasn't supposed to go like this." Her story hit the room like a shockwave. She described the helicopter hovering over a canyon flooded with dust, the unexpected storm closing the sky, and her team roping down into darkness. A 12-minute mission ambushed in seconds. The first gunshot echoed in her memory as she spoke, clipped and precise, like she had rehearsed this confession 1,000 times alone. She didn't tell them yet how she'd been injured, that part she held back, letting tension coil thicker through the silence. She continued, the collapsed ridge, the fall. The jagged rock that tore through her gear and into her ribs, stealing her breath. She remembered dragging a teammate while tasting blood in her mouth, hoping no one noticed how badly she was hurting. But the worst part wasn't the pain, it was realizing the storm had grounded the extraction bird. They were stranded, surrounded, outnumbered, fighting just to matter. The room went dead silent as she spoke, every detail landing like a punch. Hours passed on that canyon floor, the militants circled like predators waiting for the night. One by one, her team's voices went quiet. She recounted crawling toward the last living teammate only to find he'd already stopped breathing. The sound she made then wasn't a scream, it was a vow. She would not leave their story buried beneath rock and silence. Then she revealed the part she had hidden the longest, the final hour, her body failing. Her uniform soaked with blood, 3 bullets left in her weapon. Enemies closing in on the intel her team had died trying to protect. She used the bullets, she used her knife. And when her strength nearly gave out, she used sheer will to stay standing long enough to light a flare. When rescue arrived, they thought she was uninjured because she didn't fall. They never saw the scars until later, and she never explained them until today. Now the room was still. The Admiral stepped forward. No rank, no protocol, just a human being looking at someone who had survived the impossible. "You should have never carried that alone," he whispered. For the first time in years, she felt something shift. Not relief, just the release of a burden she had dragged for far too long. She lowered her shirt, but the meaning of the scars remained. She didn't just survive the mission. She preserved the truth of every soldier who didn't make it back. The Admiral ordered her record reopened, the mission reinvestigated. Her name pulled out of the shadows and placed where it belonged. As she stepped into the hallway, the base felt different, not because anything around her had changed, but because she had finally stopped hiding the story written across her ribs. Those scars were no longer secrets, they were proof of endurance, of duty, of a soldier who refused to break even when the world tried to crush her. And for the first time since that canyon, she walked forward without looking back.